Okay, so I'm going to quickly record the updated workflow for the newer version of Bifrost. So I'm going to make my plane and scale it up, and then I'm going to make a torus and maybe edit it a little bit like that. All right, and then I'm going to navigate here to Bifrost and then open my Bifrost graph editor and create a new graph. I'm going to delete this first input node and then drag my plane in here. And then I'm going to make a scatter points node, scatter points, plug my landscape geometry into here. And then I'm going to make a set instance geometry node and plug those points into here. And then the instances are going to go out here. And then next, I'm going to drag in my torus and set those into the instance geometries. And then we should see some instances come out. Maybe reduce the amount of instances. And then I'm going to start painting a mask. So I'm going to go click my plane, mesh display, color set editor, modify, mesh display, paint vertex color tool. And then I have my brush on, my tool up here. Let's flood it with black. And then, or let's flood it with black. And then let's paint on where we want the toruses to go. So maybe like here, and then maybe take them off there. Maybe a dot over there. Cool. And so when we click on and off in background plane, it automatically made a new color set. So let's rename this to torus mask. And so we're going to call that name over in our graph. So for density weights here, I'm going to press tab and type in get geo property here and type in that name torus mask. And you'll see if I just go to plug this in directly, it's not going to work. So what we need to do is actually convert this data type. So I need to right click this type, go to type values and go down to array math float 4. And you're going to see this, the hue of the screen change. The next thing to do is convert it into a scalar value. So I'm going to press tab, type in vector 4 to scalar, and put that in here. And then this x goes into the density weights. And then the last step to do is connect the geometry into your landscape here. So that color set is on your landscape geometry, and we need to feed it into this get geo property. So we're like getting this color set data property from our landscape. So that's why we needed to plug that in here. So let me organize this a little bit. Right. And so now we see we can paint that on and off now. Ooh. Yay. And then I can do like randomized rotation. So if I type in rotation, randomize point rotation, put the points in here, out points, you can see it starts to rotate a little bit. If we adjust the max radians for the X, we get more rotations that way. And then the Z axis, Y axis, right? And then let's do scale. Right, let's do random scale. Randomize point scale. Out points over here like that. And now we have randomized scale as well. So I can make this, smallest ones are going to be 0, and the largest ones are going to be twice the size. Maybe it's less than that, a little bit more than this. And then I can go back to the scatter points and add more instances, make it just like a jumble. And you'll see that we have randomized rotation, randomized scale. We could go back to here into the brush and go to smooth and smooth this out. And you see that there's like a little bit more of a gradient now. If I take this away, smooth, flood, flood, flood. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go over how to create compound nodes. So a compound node is basically a way that you can consolidate nodes into one node. So if I select them all and go to edit and make compound, you can see that all these nodes get condensed into one node. And their inputs get condensed into the left side, and then their outputs get condensed into the right side. Since these nodes are just repetitions of each other, you know, like it's just set instance geometry, randomize rotation, randomize scale, same here, same here. You could, you know, there's multiple ways you could do this. You could like just condense all of the instance geometries together, condense all the rotations together, condense all the scale together, and then when you click inside of these, you know, you're gonna have all of your rotations together. So it's kind of like making like group folders. But for now, I'm gonna undo that and do them all together. Edit, make compound, and click in here. So there's a few things to do just to make this a little bit more organized. You can see here that these pins are named, right? And you can change these names by hand. So like the points are the points along the landscape that are scattered. So you can keep it as points, or you could right click it and say like points landscape in. Whatever that is gonna keep you, oops, whatever that is gonna keep you organized, right? So you know that like, okay, my landscape points need to go in there. You know, if these were different plants, you can name this plant A, plant B, plant C, the type of plant. This kind of just makes sense to me because it's just like we could just replace whatever mesh. And then the out points for those meshes, just go to the output here. So this is a pretty well labeled. Let's say you want to like create another pin here, you know, so if you have like a new, let's say we wanted to distribute another type of cube, maybe this big red cube, and we want to bring it in here into this graph. Let's drag it down here, and then let's plug this into this pin here, and then output here. And you see it goes red, so there's some error happening. So let's click inside and try and see if we can just like plug this in. So let's select these and do Control C, Control V, and then let's rewire, instead of it on mesh 3 going to 2 locations, this and this, let's go mesh 4 into here, and then out points to here. And you can see that it repairs. It's like good to go now. Oh, but there's an error here too. Okay, so there's a few things to check. The first thing to check is the type of port that these pins are. So like you see if you hover over these at the bottom of the yellow preview where it says mesh 2 type object, mesh 3 type object, mesh 4 inferred type object. Let's check over here, out points 2 type object, inferred type object. So let's right click this and go to port types, and let's just like confirm that it's object. Let's do the same here, object. Let's go over here, port type, object. All right, and now it's working again. So if I like scale this down, you can see that this cube is part of that. So in troubleshooting these pins, just right clicking the pin and going to port type, and then making sure that it's set to object or set to auto even I think even auto would work. I think that the compound node has that auto feature, but the output needs this certain type. Checking other pin types helps determine what to set that as. Let's say that you did it from inside first. So if you go in here and copy and paste, right, and make a new port out and make a new pin in like this, right? And then you go back out here, everything's looking fine. Let's do this disk. Let's scale it up so we can see it over here. And bring this disk in. And then wire this in over here. Wire this in over here. And this one's working well too. So sometimes the error shows up, sometimes it doesn't. That's just something to look for. It's like the input type here that is the issue. So you can go up here and I think you can double click this. Let's call this points rotation scale. And then go in here. And so, you could go inside and mess with the rotation values here. Mess with the scale values here. And it's easy peasy. You can also so they're all being distributed to the same spots right now. You can see that they're all intersected. Again, if you wanted to make these have a different seed or a different location so that they're not all just like placed on top of one another. Let's try this with this disk here. You would just copy, paste this scatter by number here. And I believe we should be able to make a new pin here and plug that into the points here, right? So now we have like a new points input. Let's do it from here to here. And then change the seed of this, so seed 1. So now you see that these have a new location. So it's really easy to just have a lot going on in one compound node. I think, I wonder if you can, oh yeah, so move port to top. So you can move all your points to the top. You could rename this like disk points. So you know that this point node is for the disks, right? And then if you get done with this, you could just close this down and just have it be condensed. And then you could do compound node for these points here, or these scatter nodes. Because if you have multiples of the same thing, then it's just you could just make them into one node. Yeah, I hope that helps.